Hey, Cules! Are you ready for a hefty dose of football, controversy, and a Lamine Yamal who, as always, leaves no one indifferent? Because what happened after the Real Madrid vs Osasuna match on August 19, 2025, at the Bernabeu isn't just another chapter in the eternal rivalry between Cules and Merengues. It's a full-blown telenovela with unexpected twists, referees under fire, and an 18-year-old kid dropping jaw-dropping statements. Yes, I'm talking about Lamine, our pride from La Masia, the kid who, with a ball at his feet, seems to dance flamenco while opposing defenders spin in circles trying to keep up. But don't worry, today we're not just talking about his magic on the pitch, but also about what he said after that match, which many are calling a refereeing robbery, one of those that fuels endless debates in bars. So grab some popcorn, get comfortable, and let's unravel this story step by step, because there's a lot to unpack. The stage is set at the Santiago Bernabeu on a Tuesday night, with Real Madrid making their La Liga 2025-2026 debut against Osasuna. The match ended in a narrow 1-0 win for Madrid, with a goal from Kylian Mbappe in the 51st minute. To be honest, it wasn't exactly a champagne football festival. It was more of a scrappy game with more fouls than beautiful plays, and a referee, Adrián Cordero, who seemed determined to be the star of the night. And in the VAR room, our old acquaintance Daniel Jesus Trujillo, a name that already sounds like trouble for any Cule who remembers Bellingham's infamous fuck during another Osasuna Real Madrid match last season. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because this story has some spice, and it needs to be told step by step. The match kicks off with Real Madrid, under Xabi Alonso's leadership, looking to show that the post-Ancelotti era won't be a walk in the park for their rivals. With Mbappe, Vinicius, and young Frenchman Mastantuono in the starting 11, Los Blancos take the field eager to mark their territory. Osasuna, meanwhile, isn't intimidated. The Navarrese, with Ante Budimer leading the attack and Kike Barja dominating midfield, face them with their trademark rugged style. But what really heats up the atmosphere isn't the gameplay, it's the refereeing decisions. From the first minute, we Cules, yes, let's admit it, we all watch Madrid's matches, even out of the corner of our eyes, start noticing something odd. Fouls go unpunished, cards aren't shown, and there are a few box incidents that make more than one of us jump off the couch shouting, "Where are you, VR?" The controversy erupts in the second half. Minute 62. Osasuna has a clear chance. Budimer receives the ball in the box against Militao, and just as he's about to pull the trigger, the Brazilian centre-back pushes him with a force that, let's be honest, isn't exactly a welcoming hug. The stadium falls silent. Osasuna players scream for a penalty, but Cordero, with that calm only referees have when they know they're messing up, waves it off. Trujillo reviews the play, but surprise, no call to the monitor. Sound familiar? For us Cules, it's reminiscent of those incidents that, curiously, always seem to benefit the same club. Social media, of course, turns into a battleground. Refereeing robbery, shout Osasuna fans. Meanwhile, we Cules, with our instinct to side with anyone opposing Madrid, join the chorus. And if you're already freaking out over this, subscribe to the channel, because what comes next is even wilder. But the drama doesn't stop there. A few minutes later, in the 78th minute, Vinicius weaves into Osasuna's box like he's slaloming, dribbles past two defenders, and goes down after slight contact with Nacho Vidal. Guess what? Penalty for Madrid. At least, that's what Cordero signals. This time, though, VAR steps in, and after a review that feels like an eternity, the decision is overturned. The Madrilenians lose their minds, accusing the referee of compensating for the earlier call, while we Cules laugh in our WhatsApp groups. Let's be honest, seeing Madrid suffer a little always has its charm. But jokes aside, the general feeling is that the refereeing was a disaster. No one understands anything, and the decisions seem to come out of a magic hat. And that's where Lamine Yamal steps in. Our young genius, who didn't play in the match, of course, he's with Barça, was watching, like any good Cule, and certainly didn't miss a Madrid-Osasuna game, especially if there's controversy. After the match, Lamine, who's in the middle of pre-season with Barça and preparing to lead the team for the upcoming season, drops a gem in an interview with Mundo Deportivo. When asked about the match and Madrid's refereeing complaints, who've been crying foul over an alleged conspiracy against them for weeks, Lamine, with that mix of innocence and mischief that makes him unique, says, "Robbery. I think Madrid can't talk about robbery when we've all seen what happens match after match. If they want to complain, they should look at their Copa del Rey games first, that's where the gifts were. Boom. The words of an 18-year-old hit the football world like a bomb. Social media explodes. We Cules celebrate it like he scored at the Bernabeu, while the Madrilenians start pulling up foul statistics on Vinicius to counter it. Let's pause for a moment, because what Lamine says isn't just a poisoned arrow. It's a statement that reflects what many of us think but few dare to say out loud. Madrid spends its time running a campaign on its official channel, Real Madrid TV, constantly comparing the refereeing treatment their players receive with that of others, especially Lamine. According to them, our Canterano is pampered by referees who whistle fouls for the slightest contact, while poor Vinicius gets kicked around like a punching bag and never sees red cards for his attackers. Lamine, with his comment, doesn't just dismantle this narrative. He flips it and highlights the favors he believes Madrid has received in other matches. And pay attention, he's not talking nonsense. Let's remember last season's Copa del Rey, where Madrid benefited from several dubious decisions before falling to Osasuna, a match that, by the way, was also surrounded by refereeing controversy. But things aren't that simple. Lamine, with that freshness that characterizes him, also adds a touch of common sense to the discussion. In the same interview, he nuances his point. Listen, at the end of the day, referees have an extremely difficult job. If they whistle for one side, the other complains. If they don't whistle, the other complains too. I believe that neither Madrid, nor Barça, nor Atletico can complain so much, because we've all had decisions for and against us. And that's where Lamine proves that, despite his youth, he has his head screwed on right. Because let's be honest, we Cules have also protested when we weren't awarded a penalty for Lewandowski or when Rafinha received a kick that seemed to come straight out of a UFC fight and the referee ignored it. The difference is that Lamine doesn't stop at the easy complaint, but delivers a conciliatory message, albeit with that little hint of irony that makes the Madrilenians bite their nails. And speaking of biting nails, if you want to follow these stories closely, stories you won't see on any news channel, click the subscribe button, because what's coming next is even juicier. It turns out that Lamine's words haven't just stirred up supporters, but have also reached the ears of Xabi Alonso, Madrid's new manager. At the press conference before the next match against Real Oviedo, he's asked for his opinion on our Canterano's statements. Xabi, with the elegance that characterizes him, tries to dodge the subject. Lamine is a great player, very important for Barça and for Spain. We focus on our game, not on what's said outside, but you can see on his face, Cules, that "this kid annoys me" smirk. And it's not for nothing, because Lamine, with his comment, hit a sore spot, something Madrid has been trying to sell for months. They are the victims of a refereeing conspiracy. And our guy, at just 18, has delivered a slap that stings. Let's get back to the match, because we can't talk about refereeing theft without analyzing the key moments. In addition to the possible penalty for Budemer, there was another incident that raised eyebrows, a goal disallowed for Osasuna in the first half for a millimetric offside. The play, which involved Kike Barja heading in a cross at the far post, was reviewed by VAR for what felt like an eternity. In the end, the decision was to disallow the goal for an alleged offside by a few millimeters. We Cules, watching from home, can't help but think of Lamine's disallowed goal at the Bernabeu last season, when the ball had clearly crossed the line, but VAR decided it hadn't. Coincidence? Maybe. Suspicious too. And that's where the narrative of refereeing theft, so often repeated on social media, comes in. Osasuna supporters, and many Cules with them, accuse the refereeing of tipping the scales in Madrid's favor, something that Lamine, with his comment, seems to support. But not everything is black or white, or blue and deep red, rather. We have to acknowledge that Madrid also had reasons to complain. In addition to Vinicius's disallowed penalty, there were some fouls on the edge of the box that Cordero didn't whistle, and a hard tackle by an Osasuna player on Mbappe that only earned a yellow card when it could have been red. The Madrilenians, on their official channel, didn't waste time releasing a video comparing these actions with others where, according to them, Lamine receives favorable treatment. But honestly, Cules, doesn't this all seem tiresome? Every week, it's the same thing. Madrid pulls out foul statistics, we respond with memes, and in the end, no one agrees. What's clear is that refereeing in La Liga is a powder keg, and Lamine, with his comment, has thrown fuel on the fire. Now, let's set the controversy aside for a moment and talk about Lamine as the phenomenon he is. Because this kid doesn't just have a sharp tongue, but on the pitch, he's a true machine. Since his debut with Barça at 15, he's broken every possible record. The youngest player to play in La Liga with Barcelona, the youngest to score in a Clásico, the youngest in the Supercopa, in the Copa del Rey, in the Champions League. And the list goes on. In the 2024-2025 season, Lamine was key to Barça winning the domestic treble, La Liga, Copa del Rey, Supercopa, with 9 goals and 13 assists in 35 games. And at the Euros, while others were on vacation, he was scoring goals and lifting the trophy with Spain. This guy doesn't just play football. He seems to have a manual on how to be a global star in his head. And on top of that, at just 18, he has the courage to jump into the lion's den and talk about Madrid without mincing his words. But what does all this mean for the future? Because, Cules, this isn't just an anecdote. Lamine's words reflect something bigger. The rivalry between Barça and Madrid is more alive than ever, and now we have a generation of players who are afraid of nothing. Lamine isn't just a footballer. He's a symbol of what it means to be a Cule: talent, audacity, and unconditional love for the colors. When he says that Madrid can't complain about the referees, he's not just doing it to provoke, though, let's admit it, a little bit. He's defending the idea that football should be played on the pitch, not in offices or on TV shows. And that, friends, is something we all share, us Cules. By the way, speaking of sharing, if you like this narrative and want to follow everything happening in the Cule universe, click the subscribe button, because you won't see this on just any news channel, because what's coming next is the final conclusion. It turns out that, after Lamine's words, Madrid didn't stay silent. On their official X account, they posted a video highlighting the injustices they claim to have suffered in the match against Osasuna. And of course, they took the opportunity to slip in a few images of Lamine receiving fouls that, according to them, weren't so serious. The Cule response wasn't long in coming. Memes, videos of past actions, and, of course, more comments in support of Lamine. Because if there's one thing that characterizes us Cules, it's creativity in defending our own. In summary, the August 19th match between Real Madrid and Osasuna wasn't just another Liga fixture, it was another chapter in the timeless battle between Cules and Merengues. The refereeing left everyone on edge, and Lamine Yamal, once again, proved he's not just a star with the ball but also with a mic. His comments about Madrid and the referees didn't just spark conversation, they laid bare an uncomfortable truth. In football, no one is safe from controversy, but pointing fingers at rivals while ignoring your own flaws is a classic that never goes out of style. So, Cules, let's keep backing our Chico Maravilla, because at just 18, he's already teaching lessons, both on and off the pitch. We're still anchored in the vibrant night of August 19, 2025, with the echo of Lamine Yamal's words resonating in every corner of the football world. The Santiago Bernabéu still hums with the tension of the Osasuna match, and social media is buzzing with opinions, memes, and endless debates. But let's set the background noise aside for a moment and dive deep into the details that make this story so much more than just another refereeing controversy. Because while Lamine's remarks sent Madrid into crisis mode, there's far more to unpack: the reactions in Osasuna's locker room, the atmosphere in the bars of Pamplona and Barcelona, and how this episode is shaping the narrative of a season that's only just begun. Hold on tight, this is like a Lamine pass. Fast, precise, and with a touch of magic. In the tunnels of the Bernabéu locker rooms, as Osasuna players gather their things with the weight of defeat on their shoulders, the feeling isn't just disappointment, it's frustration. Jagoba Arrasate, the Navarrese coach known for his calm demeanor, can't help but let out a gesture of disbelief when journalists ask for his thoughts on the refereeing. "I'm not going to talk about the referees, because you know what happens if I do," he says with a half-smile that masks a mix of resignation and anger. But among the players, things are less diplomatic. Ante Budimir, the Croatian striker who felt Militao's push in the box, doesn't hold back in a small huddle with his teammates. "This isn't football, it's a circus," he mutters as he takes off his cleats, still caked with the mud of the Madrid pitch. And it's not without reason. That non-penalty was a hard blow for an Osasuna side that, while not dominating the game, had moments where they could have changed the outcome. Meanwhile, in the white locker room, the mood is a mix of emotions. Xabi Alonso, with his serene professor-like aura, gathers his players for a quick post-match debrief. Even though Madrid won, there are no big smiles. Mbappe, who scored the winning goal with a low drive after a masterful pass from Mastantuono, is visibly annoyed by a challenge he received in the second half that, in his view, deserved more punishment. Vinicius, on the other hand, keeps discussing the disallowed penalty with Bellingham. "If that's not a penalty, then tell me what is," the Brazilian complains, while Jude nods, still riding the adrenaline of the match. But Zabi, skilled at keeping calm, cuts the discussion short. "Guys, we won. Let's focus on what we control. The rest, we can't." Wise words, but they don't fully settle the mood. Because while Madrid leaves with 3 points, they know the narrative of victimhood they've been pushing is shaking with every comment like Lamine's. Speaking of Lamine, our young hero is in Barcelona, probably watching the reactions to his interview on his phone with that mix of mischief and calm that makes him so special. Because, Cules, let's not fool ourselves, Lamine knows exactly the stir he's caused. He's not one to speak without thinking. Every word that comes out of his mouth has a purpose, and in this case, it seems his goal was to light a fuse that's been smoldering for a long time. But he's not alone in this. Within Barça, his teammates are also aware of the controversy. In the team's WhatsApp group, probably named something as cool as Visca el Barça or Meja Power, messages are flooding in. GAVI, always the most intense, has probably sent a meme of Cordero pointing at nothing. Meanwhile, PEDRI, ever the calm one, writes something like, "Lamine, you're a legend, but now get ready for the Clásico." Because yes, Cules. Even though the Clásico is weeks away, this episode is already heating up the atmosphere for when Cules and Merengues face off. On the streets of Barcelona, the night is alive. Bars in Eixample and Gracia are packed with Cules who, between beers and tapas, can't stop talking about the match. In a bar near the Sagrada Familia, a group of friends debates passionately. "What Lamine said was brutal. That kid's afraid of nothing," says one, raising his glass. "Yeah, but what I don't get is how VAR didn't see that penalty for Budemer when it was so clear," another replies, pulling out his phone to show a video of the incident, recorded from the Bernabeu stands and posted on X by an Osasuna fan. The scene repeats across the city. We Cules, even though we didn't play, feel like this controversy is ours too, because anything that rattles Madrid gives us a special little thrill. And if you're already feeling that Cule passion, subscribe to the channel, because what's coming next is even more intense, and you won't want to miss it. In Pamplona, the vibe is different but just as charged. Osasuna fans, who packed the Sadar to watch the match on big screens, are still in disbelief. In a bar near Plaza del Castillo, a group of Navarrese supporters replays every moment while finishing their pinchos. "It's not just the penalty, it's the whole match," says an older man with a red scarf. He's right, because beyond the key moments, the game was full of little decisions that tipped the balance, unsanctioned fouls, incorrectly awarded throw-ins, and a criteria for cards that seemed to change depending on the team. Local media, like Diario de Navarra, are already preparing tomorrow's headlines, and one of them, going viral on X, reads, "Osasuna, victim of another Bernabeu refereeing." The word robbery is on everyone's lips, and Lamine's comment, now circulating on social media, becomes the perfect rallying cry for the Navarrese. Let's return to the epicenter of the controversy, Lamine's words. They didn't just spark reactions among fans and players, they reached the offices too. At the Spanish Football Federation, where they're used to managing these storms, the Technical Committee of Referees, CTA, released a brief but sharp statement. All refereeing decisions in the Real Madrid-Osasuna match were reviewed in accordance with VAR protocol. No clear and obvious errors were found. Sound familiar? It's the typical message that convinces no one but is meant to douse the flames, or at least attempt to, because on social media, Cules and Osasuna fans aren't buying it. "Lamine is righter than a saint," tweets one user, racking up thousands of likes in minutes, and it's not the only one. Hashtags like #RobaBernabeu and #LamineCrack start trending, and even a few lost Madrilenians join the debate, defending their team with arguments like, "Lamine didn't even play, what does he know?" In the Madrid camp, the strategy is clear: deflect attention. On Real Madrid TV, the club's official channel, they dedicate an entire segment to analyzing the fouls suffered by Vinicius and Mbappe, complete with graphics showing how the two forwards are the most fouled players in La Liga. "If anyone wants to talk about refereeing, let's talk about this," the presenter says, trying to sound serious but inevitably coming off as whiny. And that's where the narrative gets complicated, because while we Cules celebrate Lamine's jab, we also know Madrid isn't entirely wrong. Vinicius does endure a lot of fouls, some brutally hard, and they aren't always punished as they should be. But let's be honest, Cules, when Madrid trots out these statistics, they always forget to mention the times they've benefited from dubious calls, like that questionable penalty against Almeria last season or the red card for a Betis player for a foul that, in another context, might have only earned a yellow. It's the game of narrative framing, and Lamine, with his comment, decided to play it his way. Meanwhile, at Barça, life goes on. Hansi Flick, the German coach who has turned the team into a pressing and attacking machine, is preparing for the next match against Villarreal. During morning training, Lamine is the center of jokes. "Hey, superstar, did you sign with Mundo Deportivo to be a columnist?" Rafinha teases, as everyone laughs. But Flick, who isn't one to get involved in controversies, gives him a pat on the back and says something in German that roughly translates to, "Quit talking, keep doing it on the pitch, that's where you shine." And that's the thing. Lamine, despite making headlines today for his sharp tongue, knows his real power lies in his feet. In recent training sessions, he's been working on his dribbling in tight spaces, that move that leaves defenders looking like they've just seen a ghost. And we Kules, who follow the team closely, know that when the Clasico rolls around, Lamine will want to answer this controversy with a stunning goal, the kind that brings the Camp Nou to its knees. But not everything is laughs and good vibes. In the world of Spanish football, some are starting to worry about the tone of the rivalry. On a Cadena SER radio show, a veteran commentator reflects, "Lamine is an incredible talent, but someone at Barça should tell him to measure his words. These things heat up tempers, and then problems spill onto the pitch." He's not wrong. We all remember matches where pre-game tension led to hard tackles and unnecessary brawls. However, we Kules don't entirely agree. Lamine didn't say anything we weren't all thinking. And isn't this passion, this healthy or not so healthy sting between rivals, part of what makes football magical? As long as it doesn't cross the line, let Lamine be Lamine, a kid who doesn't stay quiet and wears the Barça crest tattooed on his heart. On social media, the war rages on. A video of a Kuhl fan recorded in a bar in Sant Cugat goes viral. In it, the guy, beer in hand, mimics Lamine, saying, "Robbery? Madrid has a box seat at the CTA." The video racks up thousands of views and even reaches some Barça players, who share it in their Instagram stories with laughing emojis. But it's not all jokes. On X, an anonymous user's thread breaks down, action by action, every refereeing decision from the Madrid-Osasuna match, complete with screenshots and detailed explanations. The thread becomes so popular that even some media outlets cite it, and the conclusion is clear. While robbery might be a strong word, referee Cordero's and VAR's decisions left a lot to be desired. And Lamine, with his comment, gave voice to that feeling. From the Madrid side, the response isn't long in coming. A well-known merengue influencer, with hundreds of thousands of followers, posts a video comparing the fouls suffered by Lamine to those against Vinicius, using last season's statistics. According to him, Lamine suffers an average of 3.2 fouls per game, while Vinicius endures 4.8. "And who's the referee's pet?" he asks sarcastically. We Kules, of course, don't take long to counter. One Twitter user replies, "Yeah, but Lamine doesn't get penalties for diving like he got hit by a truck." And so, the digital battle continues with memes, videos, and statistics flying back and forth. If you want to follow this war of words and laughs, subscribe to the channel, because it's heating up, and you won't want to miss a single detail. Meanwhile, in the real world, the controversy is starting to have consequences. At Osasuna, fans are organizing a protest for the next home game at the Sadar. They want to bring banners and chants denouncing the refereeing, and some are even calling for an investigation into how VAR operates. In Barcelona, we Kules are more relaxed but no less attentive. In supporter forums, like the one on the El Chiringuito Twitch stream, the comments are unanimous. Lamine said what we're all thinking, and now we've got to back him, because even though the guy is only 18, he's already one of us, a symbol of the new generation that doesn't back down from anyone, not even the mighty Real Madrid. And so, as the night of August 19th fades, the controversy lives on. Lamine Yamal, with his comment, opened a Pandora's box that won't close easily. In bars, on social media, and in locker rooms, everyone is talking about the same thing. Refereeing, Madrid, and a kid who, mic in hand, proved he's not just a genius with the ball but also a master of the sting. And we Kules couldn't be prouder, because in the end, that's what football is all about. Passion, rivalry, and a touch of magic that only players like Lamine can bring. Kules, we're still anchored in that vibrant night of August 19th, 2025, with a spark of Lamine Yamal's words continuing to fuel debates and passions. The echo of his comment about Madrid and the referees resonates like a chant at the Camp Nou. And Spanish football, as always, becomes a cauldron of emotions where no one stays silent. But beyond the media uproar, there's an endless array of details that paint this night as a nuanced masterpiece, from bar conversations to whispers in the corridors of football power, and the impact this controversy has on fans, players, and even the coaches' plans. So grab your coffee, because we're diving even deeper into this night that has everyone talking, and not just about goals. In the streets of Madrid, far from the glamour of the Bernabeu, merengue fans aren't exactly celebrating the win over Osasuna like it was a historic thrashing. In a bar in Malesana, a group of white-clad supporters debates with a mix of pride and annoyance. "We won, yes, but we always have to justify every point," one says, while another points at the TV where a pundit from El Chiringuito analyzes the non-penalty call on Budimer. "It's Lamine. Who does he think he is, talking like that? He should focus on playing and stop stirring the pot," snaps a third, clearly irritated. But amid the complaints, there's also a tacit acknowledgement. The Barca kid hit a nerve, because even though Madrid took the 3 points, the feeling that the match wasn't entirely clean lingers in the air, and for a club that prides itself on its greatness, that's a blow to the ego. Inside Real Madrid, the players try to turn the page, but it's not easy. In the Bernabeu gym, where some are doing post-match stretches, the conversation still revolves around the refereeing decisions. Eduardo Camavinga, ever the optimist, tries to downplay it. "Come on, they called a penalty against us too, right? It's not always in our favor." But Dani Ceballos, who came on in the second half and had a few heated exchanges with Osasuna players, isn't as relaxed. "It's like we always have to apologize for winning. And then some 18-year-old kid comes along to lecture us," he says, wiping away sweat. The truth is, Lamine's comment struck a chord, not just for what he said, but because it came from someone who, despite his youth, is already an undisputed figure in Spanish football. And for Madrid's players, that's a reminder that Barca has a lethal weapon in its ranks. Meanwhile, in Barcelona, the night is far from over. In the Sants neighborhood, a group of cules gathers in a pena, one of those places with walls covered in historic scarves and photos of Messi, Xavi, and now Lamine too. The screen replays the match's key moments, even though Barca didn't play, and the refereeing decisions are the hot topic. "What I love about Lamine is that he doesn't just play like a god, he's got the guts to say what we're all thinking," says one young woman, as her friends nod in agreement. Another, wearing a treble-winning season jersey, adds, "And he says it so calmly, like he's ordering a pizza. He's a genius." The pena erupts in laughter and pride, because Lamine isn't just a player, he's the embodiment of a new generation of cules who back down from no one, not even the white giant. And speaking of pride, cules, if you feel that Blaugrana passion and want to follow every detail of these stories that make our hearts race, subscribe to the channel, because what's coming promises to be even more epic. Because this night isn't just about what happened on the Bernabeu pitch, it's about how it affects the entire football ecosystem. In the FC Barcelona offices, though no one says it out loud, there's a quiet satisfaction. Joan Laporta, the president, known for his skill in navigating these turbulent waters, is probably smiling as he reads the headlines on his tablet. Not because Barca played, but because one of their own, a pure product of La Masia, put Madrid on the back foot with a single sentence. In the corridors of the Ciutat Esportiva, executives and scouts exchange comments about how Lamine is taking the club's name to another level, not just with his football but with his charisma and ability to make headlines. In Pamplona, meanwhile, Osasuna fans' frustration is turning into action. In a Telegram group with thousands of members, the Rojillo supporters are organizing a campaign to pressure the federation. "We can't stay silent. If we don't speak up, this will keep happening," writes a user who identifies as Pure Navarrese. The plan is simple but powerful. They want the next home game to be a statement, with chants, banners, and even a manifesto to be read before kickoff. Some suggest including Lamine's name on the banners as a way to thank him for highlighting what they see as an injustice. "That Barca kid has more guts than a lot of veterans," writes another user, and the message fills with applause emojis. It's fascinating how, in a night like this, a comment from a Barca player has united Osasuna fans and cules in a common cause. But not everything is unity and good vibes. In the digital world, the battle rages on. On X, a Madridista user with the handle @AlaMadrid keeps posting a montage video comparing Lamine's actions to Vinicius's, trying to prove that the refereeing treatment isn't as unequal as Lamine suggested. The video, though well edited, doesn't convince the cules, who respond with a flood of memes. One of the most popular shows Lamine with a crown and the caption, King of La Masia, Emperor of the Zasca. Another, more creative, puts referee Cordero's face on a wanted poster with the tagline, for stealing the match from Osasuna. The creativity of the Cules is endless, and every tweet, every Instagram story, seems to fuel even more pride in our Canterano. In the refereeing environment, the pressure is also increasing. In the CTA offices, officials know that this controversy is not going to fade away with a simple statement. According to an anonymous source quoted in a digital media outlet, some referees are beginning to feel the weight of being the center of attention week after week. It's exhausting. We know we can't please everyone, but it seems like we're always the bad guys, says the source. And it's not for nothing. In a private WhatsApp group of referees that a journalist from AS leaked, there are messages showing the frustration of the group. If we whistle for Madrid, the Cules kill us. If we whistle against Madrid, the Madrilenians kill us. What do we do? Writes one. Another responds with a clown emoji, as if to say that all of this is a circus. And in the middle of this circus, Lamine's name keeps coming up, because his comment gave a voice to a complaint that transcends tonight's match at Barça. Meanwhile, preparations for the next match do not stop. At the Ciutat Esportiva, physiotherapists work with the players, ensuring they are at 100% for the clash against Villarreal. But between stretches and massages, the topic of conversation inevitably turns to Lamine. This guy doesn't just play, but talks like he has 20 years of experience, says one of the physical trainers while helping Frenkie de Jong with a resistance band. And it's true, Lamine has that unique ability to combine youth and maturity, boldness and intelligence. In the team's dining hall, where players share a light dinner after training, the jokes about his interview do not stop. Listen, Lamine, next time you do a press conference, warn us so we can record it in 4K, jokes Ferran Torres while everyone laughs. But behind the laughter, there is deep respect for a guy who, at just 18 years old, is already setting the trend not only on the field but also off it. In the newsrooms of sports media, the night is frantic. At Mundo Deportivo, journalists are working against the clock to publish an article that analyzes not only Lamine's words but also the context of the match. One of the editors, a veteran who has covered 1,000 controversies, writes a paragraph that sums up the Cule sentiment. Lamine Yamal is not only the future of Barça, but the present of a football that needs brave voices. His comment about Madrid is not just a jab, but a reminder that, in this sport, the truth sometimes hurts. At Sport, another Cule media outlet, they are preparing a front page with a photo of Lamine celebrating a goal, accompanied by the headline, "The Kid Who Doesn't Stay Silent." And in Madrid, Marca and AS try to balance the scales by highlighting Madrid's victory, but they cannot ignore the uproar caused by the young Blaugrana. On social media, the fever does not subside. A Cule podcast, La Grada Blaugrana, dedicates a special episode to the controversy, and the hosts do not skimp on praise for Lamine. This guy is a gift. Not only does he bring us joy on the field, but he represents us off it, says one of the presenters, while the streaming chat fills with messages of support. And it's not just in Spain. On international forums like Reddit, football fans from around the world are talking about Lamine. A Brazilian user writes, "This guy is 18 and already making Real Madrid nervous. Imagine what he'll do at 25. Another, from England, adds, "The Barça-Madrid rivalry never dies, and Lamine is the new spark." It's incredible how a comment in an interview has crossed borders, turning our Canterano into the topic of the moment. And if all this passion for football and for Lamine makes you vibrate, don't miss what's coming. Subscribe to the channel, because this is only the beginning of a season that promises strong emotions. Because even though the night of August 19th is coming to an end, its echoes will continue to resonate in bars, on social media, and in training sessions. Everyone knows that Lamine has opened a door that won't close easily. His comment is not just a clever phrase, but a challenge, a declaration of intent from a Barça that, with him at the forefront, is ready to fight for everything. And we, the Cules, are here to enjoy it, to shout it, to live it, because it's more than football, it's our way of being, our way of feeling. Visca el Barça, and Visca Lamine.